From millionaire to homeless, a black man's journey and insights on Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Everyone's talking about it. The wild story that starts with a man who once had it all. Millions in the bank, luxury cars, high-rise apartments, and then, shockingly, ended up homeless on the streets. What happened? No one seemed to know. Until now. But here's the kicker. This man wasn't just anyone. He had a front row seat to the clash between two giants, Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And what he knows could blow the lid off everything you think you know about space, money, and power. The man says his downfall was no accident. It was a storm swirling around Musk's insane plan to build a self-sustaining colony on the moon. Imagine a city up there. People living and working off Earth, mining resources, changing the game forever. Elon Musk was ready to make that happen. But his vision wasn't just about rockets and astronauts. It was going to shake the global economy to its core. Now, picture Trump saw danger and opportunity in Musk's plan, a fortune waiting to be grabbed. So, behind closed doors, Trump started pulling strings with other billionaires, scheming to sabotage Musk's mission while sneaking in with his own secret colonization program. The tension was electric, like a powder keg ready to blow. Amidst this chaos, a young engineer named Chris emerged inside SpaceX. Chris was sharp, restless, and brimming with ideas. Then, the breakthrough happened. A neural network technology that could boost human brains for space travel, making astronauts faster thinkers, tougher fighters against the crushing isolation and danger of the void. But Chris's discovery was more than just tech. It was a key to something bigger, a weapon or salvation. And the future wasn't just in the stars, it was locked in the choices they'd make. But then, something else hit like lightning. Chris uncovered a truth about their own identity, tangled deep with Elon Musk's story in ways no one saw coming. A puzzle piece dropped into place, but instead of comfort, it brought more questions. Questions about who they really were and how far they'd go to stand up to the titans tearing at the future. The streetlights blurred as that man, once rich and now broken, whispered the words that hung heavy in the air. The race for the moon is nothing compared to the race for the truth, and the truth is the most dangerous rocket of all. What lies beneath the smoke of ambition and power? And who will fire the first shot before the final launch? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The streetlights blurred as that man, once rich and now broken, whispered the words that hung heavy in the air. The race for the moon is nothing compared to the race for the truth. And the truth is the most dangerous rocket of all. A chill ran through Chris. The weight of ambition pressed down harder. Just then, a tremor shook the ground beneath them. It wasn't just an earthquake. No, it felt more like a crack, splitting the very foundation of their world. But distant rumble turned into a deafening roar that interrupted their thoughts. Clouds of dust billowing up around them. What? Chris gasped, their heart pounding. Every instinct screamed to run. Out of the corner of their eye, a figure stumbled into view. A woman, drenched in desperation. Her eyes wide with fear, she shouted, "It's happening! They're coming! You have to get away!" Confusion wrapped around Chris like a cold blanket. "Who's coming? What are you talking about?" But before she could answer, an explosion erupted nearby. The force knocked Chris off their feet. They hit the ground hard. The world spinning. Choking on dust, they struggled to rise. Panic surged in the air. Voices crying out, echoing the chaos. Suddenly, the woman's hand grabbed Chris's. Urgency radiating from her grip. "We don't have time. You have to know. They can't let the truth out. You're in danger." "Who are you?" Chris shouted, trying to comprehend the madness around them. "I'm someone who's been watching. I know what's at stake," she spat, desperation lacing her words. "The neural tech you found? It's linked to something they'll kill to protect." Just then, a huge shadow darkened the sky. A massive drone, armed and menacing, hovered above them. Red lights flickered like eyes. "Whoa-ha-ha-ha!" Scanning the crowd. The people screamed, scattering like leaves in a storm. "Run!" the woman urged, pulling Chris away. But every instinct told them to stand their ground. Chris couldn't shake the feeling that the truth was just within reach. They could hear the whirring of the drone's blades, feel its presence crushing in from every side. Before Chris could make up their mind, the drone fired a shot. The crack of sound sliced through the chaos. A man in the crowd fell, his scream echoing through the night. Everything froze. Time stopped. The reality of their situation slammed into Chris like a freight train. "No, we have to help!" Chris cried, but the woman pulled them closer. "It's too late. If they find you, if they find the truth..." Her voice trembled, fear spilling over. But that's when Chris felt it. A pulse in their pocket. The neural device, the key to everything. They had to make a choice. Protect the truth or disappear into the shadows. The woman's gaze bore into Chris as if reading their thoughts. "You have to decide. Do you want to be part of this or walk away?" A siren wailed in the distance, blaring warnings that echoed through the chaos. The streets spun with fear and confusion. Chris looked at the fallen man, then back at the woman. "Oh, are you really?" Chris demanded, body tense, pulse racing. "What aren't you telling me?" She opened her mouth, ready to spill secrets that might change everything. But before she could say another word, a loud explosion rang out in the background, shaking them to their core. The ground trembled, and a fiery blast lit up the night sky like a sunrise of danger. In that moment, everything changed. The power struggle between Musk and Trump, the hidden identities, the quest for truth, all came crashing down. Chris now stood at a crossroads, knowing that beyond this chaos lay a truth that could redefine their very essence. As the smoke settled, Chris whispered, "What the hell have I gotten into?" And beneath their breath, they felt the truth beckoning, louder and more urgent than ever. Would they trust this woman and follow her lead? Or would the pressure of uncertainty send them spiraling into the unknown? The time to choose was now. The streetlights blurred as that man, once rich and now broken, whispered the words that hung heavy in the air. The race for the moo. A nearby building erected in chaos. Glass shattered and people screamed, darting every direction. Sirens wailed in the distance, creeping closer with each second. The man's eyes widened, pain etched across his face, a cell phone slipping from his grasp into the littered pavement below. "What the hell is happening?" he gasped, his heart pounding. In the shadow of the chaos, Chris stood frozen, an internal storm brewing. The neural network technology, once an innovative leap for space travel, now felt cursed. They turned, ready to run, when a figure emerged from the swirling smoke. It was a familiar face, but now twisted by a manic look. It was Reagan, Chris's former mentor at SpaceX, eyes wild and frantic. "Chris, you have to listen!" Reagan shouted, his voice cutting through the panic. "It's worse than we thought. Musk's plans, they're built on lies!" "What are you talking about?" Chris gasped, confusion mingling with fear. "What lies?" Reagan stepped closer, urgency brewing behind his haunted eyes. "I can't say here. They're watching. But if you dig deeper into Musk's project, into the neural sync system, you'll find a connection to Trump. It's all linked, I swear." Just then, an explosion shook the ground. A cloud of dust and debris flew into the air. Swallowing Reagan's words, Chris stumbled backward, chest tightening, eyes darting, searching for safety. This wasn't just another corporate rivalry, it felt much bigger. Their whole world was shifting beneath them. In the haze, Chris caught a glimpse of Elon Musk, flanked by security, appearing unharmed but visibly shaken. His blue eyes scanned the crowd, searching for something or someone. Chris's heart raced. How could the man behind the lunar city be standing there, like nothing had happened? A sudden chill gripped the air, and heavy silence fell. "Reagan!" Chris shouted in desperation. "What do you know?" But Reagan shrank back, eyes wide with fear. "You need to trust me. Meet me at the old hangar tomorrow. I'll bring the proof." And with that, he vanished into the sea of terrified faces, leaving Chris alone in the haze of confusion. Then, pain shot through Chris as they felt a hand grip their shoulder. They turned to find a small boy, eyes wide and trembling. "Are you okay, mister?" he asked, his voice small amidst the wreckage. The innocence in his gaze tugged at Chris's heart, a brief glimpse of hope amid chaos. But just as that light flickered in Chris's heart, a piercing scream ripped through the air. The crowd surged, pointing towards the source of the noise. A man lay on the ground, clutching his chest, face twisted in agony. And then it hit Chris like a punch to the gut. The truth they sought, hidden behind layers of power plays and grand ambitions, may have cost lives already. "The truth is more dangerous than I thought," Chris whispered to themselves, mind racing. "Could it be connected to me?" As shadows garden, swirling incertidumbre golpe la noche. Una cosa sentía clara. En este juego de poder, nadie estaba enteramente seguro, y todo lo que pensaban era ser retornado al revés. Llegaba el momento y apuntaba de sí. Nuestras culpas se convertían en las manos dentro de ellos. De un brazo cortísimo, pero más ácido arieta. Heart racing. Reagan had vanished into the crowd, leaving them alone with a pool of uncertainty. The chaos swelled around, drowning reality in noise. Screams mixed with sirens, and the weight of a world crumbling felt heavier by the second. Suddenly, the boy with the trembling voice was gone, lost in the surging crowd. Chris felt panic claw at their throat. The truth was within reach, but at what cost? An explosion erupted nearby, sending debris flying like shrapnel. Instinctively, Chris doke childe be. Chris stumbled back, heart pounding. Adrenaline surged through them. They turned to find a woman, her eyes wide with terror, dragging another person towards safety. Chris's instincts fired up. They had to move. There was no time to hesitate. Just as they broke from their stupor and darted to the left, a deafening crash echoed behind them. A massive figure came crashing down. A drone! Its metallic body crumpled, smoke rising like a ghost. The hushed whispers and gasps that followed told Chris this wasn't a simple malfunction. It felt deliberate. Then came the shock. Out from the swirling dust, a familiar face emerged. It was Elon Musk, stumbling slightly, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. His confident facade faltered, and for the first time, there was fear in his eyes. "Everyone, stay back," he commanded, voice customarily poised. He looked humanly vulnerable. But then, amidst all the chaos, a chilling realization sank into Chris. The connection Reagan mentioned, the intertwining of Musk and Trump, was more than just a corporate rivalry. As people surged around him, a glimmer caught Chris's eye. A small device, not unlike the neural tech they had found. It glinted under the flickering lights, and Chris reached for it instinctively. But when they picked it up, heat surged through their fingers, and the device flickered to life. Before Chris could study it further, the ground shook violently again, sending a crack through the pavement. Chris stumbled, but this time something strange happened. The device pulsed with energy, and suddenly a projection burst into existence above it, casting a bright light that illuminated the chaos. Faces froze in shock, eyes wide, mouths agape as they stared at the images forming in midair. It was a live feed. A hidden camera revealed a meeting room. We can't let Musk get there first. They'll believe whatever I tell them. Control the narrative. A gasp rippled through the crowd. The weight of those words hung like fog. Chris felt their hearts sink. This was bigger than they thought. The race to the moon was nothing compared to this shadowy game. "Turn it off!" someone shouted, panic sweeping. Chris had their breath caught in their throat as the screen revealed more. Musk's name was repeatedly mentioned, alongside plans that twisted into something sinister. Just then, the woman who had grabbed Chris's shoulder earlier rushed in, eyes blazing with fury and fear. "We have to stop this. They'll hunt you down." But as Chris held the device, they heard that pulse again. The truth was alive, beating within their grasp. What did it mean? Were they part of this conspiracy? Would they have to choose sides? Before they could answer, a blast rocked the ground again, sending Chris sprawling. Pain coursed through their body as they hit the ground. As the world faded to a dizzy chaos, a voice whispered, soft and intimate near Chris's ear. It was a voice they recognized all too well. "Chris, it's time to wake up." Chris blinked, struggling against the fog. That familiar face wasn't just a mentor or a friend anymore. It was a truth that unraveled everything. What had they gotten into? The air grew thick with uncertainty as they fought to understand. The battle was only beginning. Woo! The streetlights blurred as that man, once rich and now broken, whispered the words that hung heavy in the air. The race for the moon is nothing compared to the race for the truth. And the truth is the most dangerous rocket of all. Suddenly, a rumble cut through the night. An explosion echoed from the direction of SpaceX, sending shockwaves through the air. Windows rattled. Hearts raced. It felt like the ground itself had cracked beneath them. Chris froze, the weight of their choices pressing down like a ton of bricks. What the hell was that? They thought, eyes wide, adrenaline pumping. The man's gaze snapped towards the source of the noise, fear etched on his face. "Something's gone wrong!" he shouted. But before Chris could respond, chaos erupted. The streets filled with screams. People ran panic-stricken. Chris could feel the ground shaking beneath their feet, each tremor a reminder of the disaster unfolding. As smoke billowed into the night sky, Chris's heart pounded. They didn't just feel fear, they felt urgency. "I need to know what happened." They sprinted toward the sound, dodging panicked bodies. Inside the SpaceX compound, alarms blared, red lights flashed everywhere. Everything felt surreal, like a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. Chris ducked under a barricade and slipped through the entrance, the heat from nearby flames licking at their skin. The chaos was overwhelming. Engineers running, reports being shouted, the sense of dread palpable. Then they stumbled upon it, a scene that froze their blood. Elon Musk was there, face pale and eyes wide. He knelt beside a fallen technician, blood pooling around them. Chris's heart shattered. No, no. They rushed to the scene, but a sharp voice cut through the air, pulling them back. "Stay away!" It was a security guard, eyes frantic. "Is anyone alive?" Chris yelled, desperation clawing at their throat. But the guard wouldn't let them through. All Chris could feel was the weight of helplessness crashing over them. The loud noises, the people crying, it was overwhelming. In the midst of the chaos, Elon's eyes locked onto Chris with a burning intensity. "It was Trump. He's behind this," he breathed, his voice barely above a whisper, trembling with fear. "He wants to sabotage everything." Those words hit like a punch. Chris stared, disbelief crashing over them. Trump? Why? The pieces suddenly spiraled into chaos. All those rumors about collusion, schemes, could it really be true? Then, a realization shattered Chris's world. They turned to the man still lingering outside, the one who had been a millionaire, now a ghost. Their eyes widened as recognition dawned. You knew!" He shook his head, looking terrified. "No one could know what I had to do. The stakes were too high. I never wanted any of this." The ground beneath Chris felt like it was shifting again. "Stakes?" Chris echoed. "What do you mean?" Just as the words left their mouth, a loud voice boomed through the chaos. "This isn't over. The truth will come out, and heads will roll." It was a threat, an omen, a clash of titanic ambitions. The fear wrapped around Chris, tightening like a vice. They realized everything they believed was built on lies, half-truths, and shadows lurking in the fog. As the sirens screamed and the world around them descended into madness, Chris felt a fragment of hope. They knew they had to act. The truth wasn't just elusive, it was their only weapon. What would they choose? With determination sparking to life, Chris whispered to the night, "I'm not afraid. I'll find out everything." Then the realization hit them harder than any explosion. Was trust even an option anymore? Who could they believe? The air felt heavy, charged with electric tension as they prepared for the unraveling storm. And somewhere deep inside, the truth whispered back, "This is just the beginning." The street lights blurred as that man, once rich and now broken, whispered the words that hung heavy in the air. "The race for the moon is nothing compared to the race for the truth. And the truth is the most dangerous rocket of all." Just then, chaos erupted. A loud explosion rocked the street. Windows shattered, sending shards of glass flying like angry confetti. People screamed, hearts raced. The once calm night became a whirlwind of panic. It felt like the end of the world, or at least the end of something big. Chris, still reeling from the revelation of their own identity, felt the ground shake beneath their feet. There was a second blast, closer this time. The sound didn't just echo, it clawed at the very fabric of the night. In a flash, shadows darted everywhere. Was it sabotage? An assassination attempt? The questions raced through Chris's mind faster than any rocket launch. They turned, searching for direction, but the street had transformed into a chaotic maze. People pushed past, desperate to escape, fear painted across their faces. Then Chris spotted him, Elon Musk, disheveled and wide-eyed, stumbling out of a nearby building, his hands stained with ash. "What happened?" Chris shouted, lungs burning from the dust swirling in the air. "A setup!" Elon gasped, his voice shaky. "They knew our plans. They're trying to stop us before we even begin." His eyes darted around, wild and searching. "We have to get out of here." But as they moved, a figure emerged from the smoke, a tall silhouette dressed in black, eyes glinting with purpose. Chris froze as the figure stepped closer, revealing long, dark hair. It was someone they knew, someone who was supposed to be an ally. It was Alex, Chris's best friend since childhood. The realization hit like a punch to the gut. "Alex!" Chris yelled, voice hoarse. "What are you doing here?" The look on Alex's face sent a chill down Chris's spine. There was no surprise, no love, just cold calculation. "You have no idea how deep this goes, do you?" Alex's voice dripped with disdain. "You think you're fighting for some noble cause? You're just a pawn in a game much bigger than you can imagine." "What are you talking about?" But Alex just smirked, and it felt worse than a slap. "You thought you were the only one who figured things out? That discovery of yours? It's worth millions, Chris, and it could ruin everything, or you could be the key to it all." Before Chris could process this, there was a loud crack. A gunshot? Panic surged through the crowd again. People dove for cover. Chris looked back at Elon, who was pale, eyes wide, and whispering, "We have to trust her." Trust? In Alex? Chris's heart pounded painfully in their chest. The lines were drawn, and the world stripped away the certainty they once held. A sudden movement caught Chris's eye. A cloaked figure slipped through the back of the crowd, heading toward a black van waiting in the shadows. There was something about the way they moved, purposeful, like they belonged there. Chris's instincts flared. This was the moment to act. "Alex!" Chris shouted, adrenaline pumping. "What's really going on? You have to tell me." But Alex was already stepping back, a cruel smile creeping across their face, one that felt like a betrayal. "Some truths are better left buried, Chris. You should have stayed poor." With that, the mysterious figure slipped into the van, and the engine roared to life. Before Chris fully understood what was happening, they sprinted after it, heart racing, thoughts a flurry of confusion. Was Alex part of this too? Could they have been playing both sides all along? The van sped away, tires screeching, and in that moment, in the bright glow of the chaotic street, Chris knew they were on the edge of something that could change everything forever. Something darker than they ever imagined. And in the distance, a siren wailed, cutting through the noise, as everything began to crumble around them. The street lights blurred as that man, once rich and now broken, whispered the words that hung heavy in the air. The race for the moon is nothing compared to the race for the truth. And the truth is the most dangerous rocket of all. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the night. The sound echoed, bouncing off the crumbling buildings, filling the air with an instant freeze. Chris, caught in a world of swirling thoughts, jolted. Was that an explosion? A massive plume of smoke twisted toward the sky just a few blocks away, engulfing the neighborhood in a haze. People were shouting, running toward the... Chris's heart raced. They had to go. "Come on, we need to see." Chris pulled on their friend's arm, a visceral need rising in their chest. As they dashed through the streets, sirens wailed in the distance, slicing through the initial sounds of shock. Where was this coming from? Amid the chaos, flashes of light flickered through the smoke. A dark shape loomed, something sinister. People gathered, faces illuminated by the fiery glow. Crowds whispered in panicked tones. What was it? A car bomb? A drone strike? Shockwaves of fear rippled through the onlookers like a tidal wave crashing ashore. As Chris pushed through, the sight before them twisted their insides. A crater marred the asphalt, debris scattered like jagged teeth. But it wasn't just destruction. No, sprawled in the wreckage was a telltale sign, the logo of SpaceX, glinting ominously in the orange light. Then, something else gripped Chris, a voice, low and urgent, slicing through the crowd. "Get back! We don't know what's in there!" It was a figure in a black suit, armed, eyes flaring with frantic intensity. "Get everyone away! This might be a part of something bigger!" Shivers ran down Chris's spine. What were they hiding? Chris pushed forward, dodging through the gathered masses. The smell of smoke and fear heavy in the air. There, at the edge of the crater, a figure stood, blackened by soot but unmistakable. It was Elon Musk, face twisted in shock, his grandeur marred by chaos. But then, it hit Chris like a ton of bricks. They saw it, the tech and schematics scattered around the debris, fragments covering the ground, pieces of Chris's own invention, the neural network technology, the very work that lit their nights and haunted their dreams was here, flaunting a betrayal. How did it end up here? Who had twisted their creation into destruction? Chris's breath hitched. Betrayal? Anger? The spark of madness flickered to life. Who had known about this connection? Was it possible Musk had played them all along? Just then, a loud shout cut through. "Get away from him!" It was Donald Trump. He stormed through the crowd, flanked by security. Eyes blazing with fury, he pointed a finger at Musk, their long simmering rivalry boiling over. "You think you can steal my future? This isn't the moon, this is war." The crowd gasped collectively, a breath drawn in shock, hearts racing with the promise of violence. Chris felt a tidal wave of confusion crashing over them. Who could they trust now? This scene, a perfect nightmare, churned, and just when it seemed the fray might erupt, a piercing scream shattered the air. "Chris, get back!" A shadow loomed, and everything shifted. The truth they sought blurred. In that moment, reality twisted. Friend, enemy. Who could say? The answers they sought newly wrapped in darkness, and as lightning illuminated the sky, Chris's world spiraled. A revelation creeping closer, threatening to expose everything. The air crackled with tension, the chaos swirling around like a dark cloud. Chris felt the weight of the moment. Elon Musk, Donald Trump, the explosion, the truth, but it all became suffocating. As the crowd held its breath, the flames flickered in the night, reflecting the uncertainty. Chris's heart raced. It was Alex again, but this time there was something menacing about their stance, a look of satisfaction that sent chills down Chris's spine. They were no longer the friend who had supported Chris through thick and thin. No, this was someone else entirely. "Guess who's been leading the charge?" Alex said, voice dripping with cynicism. The crowd parted slightly, confusion blanketing the scene. "You think this is just a contest between Musk and Trump? Pathetic. This is about something much bigger." The air grew thick with whispers. "What does that mean?" And "Is that true?" chattered around Chris. But Alex's eyes sparkled with a cold fire, daring anyone to challenge them. "What are you talking about, Alex?" Chris demanded, forcing confidence against the rising tide of fear. "Your precious neural tech, it's the linchpin to all this." They gestured to the chaos. "You've been used, Chris, plugged into a game you can't even comprehend." A sinking feeling lodged in Chris's chest. Used? By who? Alex smirked, that chilling grin cutting through the murmur of the crowd. "By everyone. You think you're special? Ha 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 ha. You're just a glitch in their matrix, darling." The word dripped with mock affection. The air shifted again, and out of the corner of Chris's eye, they saw a woman rushing toward them. It was the stranger from before, her eyes desperate, darting. "You need to listen! They're coming!" "Who's coming?" Chris shouted. But the answer died in the air, drowned out by the panic-stricken crowd. Then, everything exploded. A deafening blast surged through the night, not from the previous explosion, but from the sky. A brilliant flash lit the area beneath the dark blanket of clouds above. A drone, larger than life, cut through the chaos, its shadow hovering like a shroud. The sensation was dizzying, blinding, consuming. "No!" Elon shouted, panic splintering his usually composed demeanor. "Get down!" But it was too late. The drone let out a series of thunderous booms. raining down sparks and debris. The crowd erupted into chaos, people scattering like leaves caught in a storm. Chris felt something tug them backward, Alex pulling them away from the carnage. "Come on, we have to go! Stop!" Chris shouted, ripping their arm free. "You know more!" "What did you mean by the game?" But Alex's gaze turned cold. "I wasn't supposed to reveal myself yet," they admitted, half whispering, half a confession tinged with excitement. "But now maybe you'll understand. You're part of this reality show, and guess what? It's all staged!" That last word hit Chris like a fist to the gut. "Staged? What do you mean?" Before Alex could answer, the drone roared overhead, blasting a shockwave that knocked Chris off their feet. They hit the ground hard, gasping, visions of their life unraveling. How had everything turned? Was Alex truly an enemy now? Through the haze, reality warped. Chris caught glimpses of familiar faces in the crowd, fear mingling with shock. What if it was all a game? What if their whole life had been orchestrated by players on a grander scale? And then, amidst the chaos, it happened. A flash of recognition pierced through everything. The woman from earlier, who had tried to warn them, was suddenly surrounded by the very guards who protected Musk. "Tell him the plan is still in action," one of them barked, hand grabbing the woman's arm. Words froze in Chris's throat. This wasn't just a random explosion. This wasn't just a riot. This was a grand scheme unfolding, and Chris was lodged at the heart of it, realizing with horror that trust was a fragile illusion. "Get up!" Alex yelled, dragging Chris to their feet. "We have to escape before they find out what you know." As the truth clawed at Chris's mind, they looked at Alex, eyes wide with disbelief. What was hidden? What did they know? Were they a part of the lies that twisted their fate? They had one choice: follow Alex into the unknown and confront the truth, or stand still and become another casualty in a game of power they barely understood. And in that moment, the ground shook beneath them, a final promise that whatever lay ahead, nothing would be the same again. The air crackled with tension, the chaos swirling around like a dark cloud. Chris felt the weight of the moment. Elon Musk, Donald Trump, the explosion, the truth, but it all became suffocating. As the crowd held its breath, the flames flickered in the night, reflecting the uncertainty etched into every face. And then something shifted. A figure stepped out from the shadows, tall, cloaked, and commanding. Chris's heart raced. It was Alex again. But this time, there was something menacing about their stance. A look of satisfaction that sent chills down Chris's spine. They were no longer the friend who had supported Chris through thick and thin. No, this was someone else entirely. "Guess who's been leading the charge?" Alex said, voice dripping with cynicism. The crowd parted slightly, confusion blanketing the scene. "You think this is just a contest between Musk and Trump? Pathetic. This is about something much bigger." The air grew thick with whispers. "What does that mean? And is that true?" chattered around Chris. But Alex's eyes sparkled with a cold fire, daring anyone to challenge them. "What are you talking about, Alex?" Chris demanded, forcing confidence against the rising tide of fear. Your precious neural tech? It's the linchpin to all this. They gestured to the chaos. You've been used, Chris. Plugged into a game you can't even comprehend. Dot. A sinking feeling lodged in Chris's chest. Used? By who? Alex smirked, that chilling grin cutting through the murmur of the crowd. By everyone. You think you're special? You're just a glitch in their matrix, darling. The word dripped with mock affection. The air shifted again, and out of the corner of Chris's eye, they saw a woman rushing toward them. It was the stranger from before, her eyes desperate, darting. You need to listen. They're coming. Who's coming? Chris shouted, but the answer died in the air, drowned out by the panic-stricken crowd. Then, everything exploded. A deafening blast surged through the night, not from the previous explosion, but from the sky. A brilliant flash lit the area beneath the dark blanket of clouds above. A drone, larger than life, cut through the chaos, its shadow hovering like a shroud. The sensation was dizzying, blinding, consuming. No! Elon shouted, panic splintering his usually composed demeanor. Get down! But it was too late. The drone let out a series of thunderous booms, raining down sparks and debris. The crowd erupted into chaos, people scattering like leaves caught in a storm. Chris felt something tug them backward. Alex, pulling them away from the carnage. Come on! We have to go! Stop! Chris shouted, ripping their arm free. You know more. What did you mean by the game? But Alex's gaze turned cold. I wasn't supposed to reveal myself yet, they admitted, half whispering, half a confession tinged with excitement. But now, maybe you'll understand. You're part of this reality show, and guess what? It's all staged! That last word hit Chris like a fist to the gut. Staged? What do you mean? Before Alex could answer, the drone roared overhead, blasting a shockwave that knocked Chris off their feet. They hit the ground hard, gasping, visions of their life unraveling. How had everything turned? Was Alex truly an enemy now? Through the haze, reality warped. Chris caught glimpses of familiar faces in the crowd. Fear mingling with shock. What if it was all a game? What if their whole life had been orchestrated by players on a grander scale? And then, amidst the chaos, it happened. A flash of recognition pierced through everything. The woman from earlier, who had tried to warn them, was suddenly surrounded by the very guards who protected Musk. Tell him the plan is still in action, one of them barked, hand grabbing the woman's arm. Words froze in Chris's throat. This wasn't just a random explosion. This wasn't just a riot. This was a grand scheme unfolding, and Chris was lodged at the heart of it, realizing with horror that trust was a fragile illusion. Get up! Alex yelled, dragging Chris to their feet. We have to escape before they find out what you know. As the truth clawed at Chris's mind, they looked at Alex, eyes wide with disbelief. What was hidden? What did they know? Were they a part of the lies that twisted their fate? They had one choice. Follow Alex into the unknown and confront the truth. Or stand still and become another casualty in a game of power they barely understood. And in that moment, The ground shook beneath them. A final promise that whatever lay ahead, nothing would be the same again. Without warning, an ear-piercing alarm screamed through the chaos, slicing the air like a knife. The ground trembled again as a hidden hatch in the ground burst open, smoke billowing out, filling the dark space with an acrid stench. A colossal vehicle emerged, armored and formidable, rolling over debris and chaos like a tank on a battlefield. "What the hell is that?" Chris gasped as the crowd gasped and recoiled, fear rippling through every onlooker. Alex's eyes lit up. A mixture of "this changes everything! Whatever you thought was happening here." Then the back door of the vehicle folded open, and several figures in dark suits stepped out, faces obscured by masks. They moved with precision, eyes scanning the crowd like hawks. Chris felt a surge of dread. And then it happened. The woman who had been seized suddenly broke free, sprinting toward the armored vehicle. "They're lying! Trust me!" she screamed. But a guard caught her mid-stride and pulled her back with brutal force, shouting orders to regain control. Elon and Trump stood frozen, eyes wide, each leader watching as their world imploded. "Let her go!" Chris shouted. But it was drowned out by the chaos. In the tumult, a glimmer caught Chris's eye, something shiny heading straight for them. Instinct kicked in. "Get down!" Chris hollered, but it was too late. Boom! A deafening explosion ripped through the block, sending everyone crashing to the ground. The shockwave knocked Chris off their feet, slamming into the pavement. Pain radiated through their body. Everything went black. When Chris came to, the world was still. For a heartbeat, there was only silence. But then, creeping back into focus, a sight that would change everything. ... The woman stood there, surrounded by the guards, but she wasn't the only one. A familiar face emerged from the shadows. Trump stood beside her, hand raised, eyes blazing. "It's all been a part of the plan, Chris. You're more valuable than you know," he sneered. And in a split second, Chris's world flipped upside down. Relationships shattered, secrets unveiled, and the stakes suddenly rose higher than ever. "Get 'em!" Trump shouted, weight shifting as the guards turned. Chris's heartbeat thundered in their ears as they staggered to their feet, gripping Alex's arm tightly. The utter chaos of the night pressed down on them like a heavy blanket. Smoke curled in the air, blinding them. But Chris could feel every pulse of adrenaline and fear. "What's going on, Alex? Who are you really?" The tension coiled tightly as promises cracked and frayed. "You're standing in the middle of a storm, Chris," Alex shot back, voice cold. "This is about control. They don't want the truth out." Before Chris could respond, Trump's voice thundered over the chaos. "Get them!" His finger pointed. "We have to get out of here," Chris yelled, instinct kicking in to run. But Alex held firm, eyes sharp, voice low. "You need to listen to me. They can't find out what you know." The vehicle behind them rumbled, ominous shadows looming in the flickering light. Chris turned, heart racing faster than ever. The woman from earlier was struggling against the guards, her eyes wide, mouth moving in frantic whispers. "They'll destroy everything," she begged. But Alex's grip tightened on Chris's arm, urging them to flee. "No," Chris said, refusing to back down. "I won't leave her." With that, determination flared anew. They pulled away from Alex, pushing through the chaos. "Stop! You don't get it!" Alex's voice broke, panic rising. But Chris had to know. They had to know the truth. They reached the woman just as the guards closed in. "What's the truth?" Chris demanded, eyes desperate. "The neural tech. It's not just about space. It's about control, power." She gasped for breath, panic etched across her features. If they get their hands on it, everything is lost. The ground shook again, the air growing thick. Explosions reverberated nearby, tearing Chris's focus. People screamed, shadows rushed by. Chris clenched the woman's arm. "We need to move now! Go!" a voice bellowed. It was Elon, finally making his presence known, but shadows surrounded him. Someone was about to make the final move. Amidst the confusion, Chris felt the weight of the truth in their bones. With the crowd escalating into a frenzy, they turned to Alex and shouted, "This game doesn't end here!" Suddenly, a loud thud echoed, and the armored vehicle's back doors swung open. Figures clad in black surged out, scanning the crowd with piercing eyes. Chris sensed the shifting tide. This was more than a conflict. It was a trap woven with deceit. "Run!" screamed the woman, pulling Chris toward the shadows. Adrenaline surged as they bolted. Alex's voice called behind, filled with despair. "You don't understand. There's no escape from this." But Chris pressed on. They burst into a narrow alley, breathing hard, the echoes of chaos fading behind them. "How do we stop this?" Chris asked the woman as voices grew faint. "Find the mainframe. Expose the truth," she urged, urgency lacing her words. With newfound determination, Chris nodded. "We will, together." And as they ran, moving faster, away from the explosion of lies and toward the chaotic dance of fate, a flicker of hope sparked between them as they climbed the heights of shadow and revelation. But out of nowhere, the light shifted. Against the smoky backdrop, a drone hovered. Its menacing red glow, feeling too close, hands trembled as Chris pulled out the neural device, the key they had found clutched tightly. This is our weapon!" The sound of shouting and footsteps drew closer. "We need to show the world!" Chris shouted, heart racing, but doubt started creeping in. As they turned to run, the shadows melted behind them. Chris could feel it, the truth curling tightly around them, an embrace filled with uncertainty. And in that split second, Chris knew the struggle was far from over. They were racing against time and power, a dark dance leading them to a crossroads none could foresee. You have to subscribe now so you don't miss the next chapter of this thrilling journey. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button. It really helps with the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about what's coming next. Share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Don't wait even a second longer. True fans know how crucial it is to support the channel.